On today's episode of Anime Afterthought Made in Abyss Season 2, Episode 7, The Cradle of Desire. Holy shit. My god, is this beyond bleak. I mean, you guys warned me that this was going to be bad, but this is on a whole other level. That cliffhanger, though, I'm pretty sure we can all guess, right? Like, why kill the cow when you can drink the milk for free? Nervous laughing. Cannibalism. Oh god. So it turns out the Golden City is not Ganja's salvation. It's not this utopia where their descendants will live free forever. Its true nature can only be described as hell. But even if they wanted to return to the world that threw them away, they can't. This is officially their last dive. A phrase all too true when they find out what happens when you ascend from the 6th layer. But alas, with no way to retreat, the only option is forward. At least they're not going it alone. They got the interference units to help them out. Perfect opportunity to initiate their prime directive. They are essentially robots whose sole purpose is to observe, interact, and learn. Helping out these humans is an opportunity for research. This symbiosis is a great parallel and a perfect example of why Reg is such a crucial member of Rico's party, especially since we've entered the point of no return. Him not being affected by the curse will become more and more essential moving forward, as we see here in the interference units. So with a helping hand, Ganja's plans to make the 6th layer their home are officially underway. Now there are 3 key components to any survival scenario: shelter, water, and food. So it wasn't surprising that it was one of these fundamental components that led Ganja to their inevitable downfall. What was surprising was how. At this point in the story, everything seems to be running as smoothly as possible. Thanks to 6 layers' unique terrain, there seems to be an abundance of cave systems, and Ganja is using that for their base of operations. Food, on the other hand, is a little more difficult to come by. Let's face it, right now it's survival of the fittest, and the only reason they're scraping by is due to their sheer numbers and ingenuity. But hey, if a hermit rat can survive in these conditions, so can Ganja. Last but certainly not least is water. And once again, the interference units are coming in clutch. With their sole purpose being the research of the 6th layer, they know where the potential water sources are located at. The only issue now is viability. See, certain water locations are just impossible for the humans and even the interference units to reach, thus forcing Ganja's hands to select the only water that's available, and in doing so, all but seals their fate. Now, all the meanwhile, the story seems to be focusing on Veiko and Irumyuui, and the deeper we dive into their budding relationship, the more we get about their backstories. And I gotta say, holy shit, what kind of life have you lived if you can smell sex? What the fuck? Now, these two definitely are kindred spirits with the inability to reproduce. Finding each other, they have formed this makeshift family, Veiko taking on the role as the mother and Irumyuui the surrogate daughter. But just below the surface is almost this covetous admiration. You can definitely tell that her infertility has left this giant emotional and even physical scar. I mean, how else could you explain the fact that she could smell sex on Veiko? Hell, and don't even get me started on the possible incestual implications. Her brothers were able to snuff out her impotence. Like, already they're setting the bar very high for how creepy this shit is gonna get. Little by little, their relationship is blooming. Veiko began to recognize herself in Irumyuui. And here's where the story takes a dark turn, because hell, what's life without trials and tribulations? With shelter secured and plenty of food and water, at this point, Ganja must assume they were safe. That was until they started experiencing the sickness. A bout of diarrhea followed by body mutilations as if they were literally melted from the inside out. And it was only after Bailoff led a research expedition into their water source that they found out the truth. The water that they were drinking was not safe. That the source in which they found it was in fact not a cave, but a giant carcass of a monster that had been melted and solidified over and over and over again, and it was the water to blame. Talk Talk about a catch-22. I mean, they need water to survive, yet the water they're drinking will inevitably kill them. If only there was some kind of magical wish-granting egg that could help. What'd you say? There is? The Cradle of Desire. Okay. Fate is fickle, and it's usually too late to determine whether something is a blessing or a curse. And just as all hope looks lost for Ganja, fate intervenes. This time in the form of the wish-granting relic known as the Cradle of Desire. At least that's what the interference units tell us. This very powerful object has the ability to grant a wish, but not to anyone. It seems adults' minds are a little too cluttered. They need to be pure, childlike. Can you see where this shit's going? Yes, unfortunately, even Irumyuui wasn't spared from the sickness as her body begins to overheat, melt, and re-solidify into this gorish nightmare that would give Cronenberg a run for his money. So in a last-ditch effort, Veiko wants to give her the Cradle of Desire. A sentiment even backed by Wazukin. This girl will be our salvation, or at least that's what he said. His eyes tell a completely different story. But alas, the decision has been made. Irumyuui will be given the Cradle of Desire, and hopefully her wish is strong enough to do something. Everyone is literally on death's door, so a miracle needs to happen. And immaculate conception definitely counts as a miracle. See, it seems the Cradle of Desire has fused with Miu's body. She's no longer in pain, she's no longer hurt. In fact, she is full of energy. Okay, this is a great sign. But the transformation doesn't end with her simply merging with the relic. No, she begins to look more and more like a Narihata. And eventually the truth of her wish will be revealed. What was her greatest yearning? What was her deepest desire? Simply put, she wanted to be a mother. And with the Cradle of Desire, she was able to. But even though she had finally gained what she most coveted, nothing would prepare her for the most heartbreaking moments to come. And I mean, what could? She had finally gained the ability to produce offspring, yet every child she has dies. Not to mention, they resemble the hermit rat. Like, that goes to show you how much of an impact that had on her. Like, so what, the hermit rat to her was not a pet, but a surrogate child, and now she's trying to recreate that child, and yet over and over and over again, they're just fucking dying. Her screams as she holds her dead children are fucking nightmare fuel. I just can't fucking take it. Oh, and of course, it's not over. It's made in abyss. What the fuck do you expect? Running out today's episode, the last few remnants of Ganja are falling victim to the sickness. That includes Veiko, who is lying on death's door. Even with the blood-curdling screams of Irumyuui in the background, all she can think of is one more bite of food or just another sip of water. And when it looks like she's about to take her last breath, she's actually giving a spoonful of soup. But you gotta question, where did it come from? Veiko awakes revitalized. Curious about what transpired, and the origins of her salvation, this mystery stew, confronts Wazukin, who once reiterates the words he spoke to her earlier. I told you she would be the salvation of Ganja. And like I said before at the very beginning of this video, why kill the cow when you can drink its milk for free? I already know where this was fucking going. Wazukin had taken her children and fucking fed them to Veiko. Jesus fucking Christ. I don't even know where we're going. I don't know where the fuck we're gonna go from here. I really don't. I'm fucking flabbergasted. It's beyond belief. Jesus Christ, my God. I mean, we know where it's going. Something bad had to happen, but even in this episode, you're lulled into this false sense of security, right? Ganja is safe. They have shelter. They have food. They found water. But just one shitty thing after another, it just spirals down into the abyss. That was accidental, but pretty funny. But I did not see that coming. I mean, it makes sense though. Give a child who was brought up on only ever knowing that she was cursed, that she was worth nothing, gonna be thrown away because of her infertility. What else should we fucking wish for? But to see them all be born just to die, and then to see those taken and eaten, I don't fucking know, man. Jesus Christ. Well, definitely gonna have an interesting cringe meter, ain't we? Speaking of which, let's cut to it. Welcome back to the patent pending Cringe Meter. How does today's episode stack up with others? Let's go ahead and find out. And there you have it. Today's episode scores a profoundly traumatic. I think on its own, the body mutilation coming from the sickness, as well as the Cradle of Desire, is deeply disturbing. But on top of that, Irumyuui's transformation, the twisted gif of birthing dead creatures and then turning that into a fucking stew is just the next fucking level. I honestly don't know how much my heart or the cringe meter can take. So with that, we return to your regularly scheduled programming. And remember, this is only half of the story. We still have the creation of Irumyuui to uncover. With that in mind, what did you guys think of today's episode? Did you hate it? Do you love it? Do you want some more of it? Well, I do. And with all that being said and more Made in Abyss next week, I honestly cannot wait for future episodes.